really do appreciate it. I'm literally just got in the car. I'm pulling out of the driveway. I'm on my way to work right now. So I have the pleasure to come once again in front of you to discuss this issue. After giving this a lot of thoughts, and I figured that we should have this conversation because not a lot of people talk about this, and some of us, some of us in African communities that have left the country and who specifically live in the West. Some of us, we really do not tell the truth, or maybe we have the intentions to tell the truth, but the truth that the media will have you, however, believe is really not the reality of what's going on in the West. So we've learned a lot of things since the Russia-Ukraine war started, right? And then for that reason, I found it so important to actually talk about this and assess and probably decide whether Europe is really what the media will have you believe it is. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So, if you are finding me for the first time, make sure to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like the video and also share it with a friend if you find this type of information important. And I will also highly recommend you to go back and check my other videos. There are a lot of topics that I decided on, I discussed it on there that I'm convinced that you will find productive and informative. The channel, at least my main goal, I try to focus more on agriculture and encourage more Congolese in the diaspora, or African generally speaking, because we are all Africans from the continent of Africa, right? And I would like everybody to acknowledge their sense of responsibility, especially living in the West, to go back and invest in their own country. So I think that if we encourage ourselves and we uplift ourselves, this is the best way that the African community can grow and also inspire others to do exactly just that. So do me a favor, once you join the chat, make sure you announce yourself and let me know where you're watching me from, and I will really, really, really appreciate it. So come on, guys, it's been almost 3 minutes since the live started. I don't need a lot of people. I'm fine live streaming with 2 or even 3 individuals. So please feel free to join me, to join the chat. So while we're waiting for other people to join the chat, I would like to keep you guys updated on what's going on my farm, because I released a video not too long ago where I was showing you guys the evolution of the construction taking place on my farmland, right? Because you guys know that I'm building a pig barn, and yes, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to build. It's challenging, but once you see the results, it's rewarding. It makes your heart feel joyful. You know what I mean? So I can't really complain too much about it, but you should know that that's really, really challenging. And there are a couple more stuff that's going on around the farm as well that I will keep you guys updated. I'm actually working on another video on the farm, so you guys stay tuned for that. I'll keep those alerts turned on because you never know when that video is going to drop. So please do me a favor to turn the notification icon, so when those videos are released, you get them. All right. Yes, so you guys probably remember that I was growing something like 2.5 acres of corn, and I believe I told you guys what I was willing to do with them. I decided to let them dry out before we harvest them. So the harvest took place already. We have collected the corn. In the coming video, you get to see all of those. And then I have decided. The primary intention was to sell it, right? But then after giving it a lot of thought, then I realized that I got animals on my farm, and I decided that I would use those the maize to transform it into the animals' feeds, right? Instead of selling them, I can, keep the amount that I have been able to harvest and purchase another commodities that will be mixed with it, right? And that will perfectly, provide us with, pigs of feed. But all right, so guys, I think that's enough there. It's been almost 6 minutes since the chat started, and I have one person on the chat. Please let me know in the comment section who you are, and I would really appreciate it. So I'm not gonna wait for anybody else to join the chat. The more I talk, the closer I get to my job, because when I get to the parking lot, I'm gonna have to, to end the chat and, go clocking before my shift starts. But okay, let's talk about this, shall we? All right, guys. So you probably saw the thumbnail. You saw the title. You're curious, what this guy's talking about. What is he about to talk about? All right, just relax a little bit. I've learned a lot of things since the Russia-Ukraine war started, and he has taught me a lot of things, and actually intrigued my curiosity to ask even a lot more questions surrounding this, issues where Africans, some of them risk their lives crossing the ocean on a boat to get to Europe because they think they do not have, a better salary back home. The government is not treating them, rights, or they feel like their, life is basically wasted, that they feel the need to leave everything behind and move to the Western world, right? Everybody is free to do whatever they think is best for them, and that's going to better their lives. So we give them credit for that. And especially if you're a man of the family, you have a wife, you have kids, you have to do whatever it takes to make sure you keep your family, running smoothly, to keep your family, provide for your family. That's an ultimate goal for every man who at least consider themselves responsible of their household. However, sometimes we do not do enough research when we are planning on moving to the West. What I learned from the Russia-Ukraine war is that Europe without Russia, they're nothing. A lot of these European countries, the moment Russia turns off the valves, a lot of these European countries will not have electricity. I do not know if you guys are following the news, around the Ukraine war with Russia. You'll probably know that the European unions, they have actually proposed 2 African countries to help them actually to collaborate to start importing energy from those countries. And at least those 2 countries that I know so far is the Democratic Republic of Congo and Nigeria. So Europe now is negotiating to see if Nigeria will be able to provide as much energy to them just as Russia. This process is going to take years to be completed. The whole Europe, I came to find out, Poland is probably one of those countries that may probably get away with Russian oil and gas if they turn the valves off, right? Because they have, I think, at least one LNG port where they can have all of this energy stored. But other European countries, on the other hand, they do not even have the infrastructures to import this energy that they get from Russia. When I learned that, I was, that is interesting. Why is Europe always portrayed as the promised land when they're in the conflicts with Russia and they do not want to import oil and gas from Russia because of the Russia intervention in Ukraine? but they do not have those energy for themselves. So pay close attention to this one. Do you guys understand? In order for Europe to run, actually the world runs on gas. I mean, the world runs on oil. You need oil to run industries, to run companies. All these enterprises that are famous around the world, you need oil to run them. Because even us, if you're a farmer, you have tractors, to do weed control. You will need gas for that, right? You need gasoline to put in there and to be able to do it properly, because you can just pour water in because the motor doesn't run on water, it runs on oil. So you need oil to run the country. They do not have oil in their soil. That's why they're so highly and heavily dependent on Russian oil. So if today Russia's demands to pay for their gas in ruble, some of these countries are already boycotting it, but they do not have an alternative, right? They will get their gas cut off. And that's one of the reasons why the sanctions against Russia is never going to work. So my focus here is more on Europe dependence on Russian gas. Even what America is telling them is trying to paint a picture around the world that, they're isolating Russia. No, they're isolating themselves instead. What I've learned is that Russia has a grip on the entire Europe, because if he doesn't provide Europe with oil and gas, they're nothing. But our African leaders, they see this, but they still do not understand. I do not know what exactly is going on here, because the only place where they can get their energy is if Russia today decides to close the valves. They will have to come back to countries like Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo, because they're already talking about it. You guys remember we have the hydroelectrical power plants in Inga 1, Inga 2. I think there is a project on the way to build Inga 3. I think the contract was signed. I don't know if it's already signed or the discussion is still ongoing between the Congo and Australia. That I know for a fact because I watched that on the news. But I'm not sure how long this is really going to take, because I know the estimated amount to actually implement the projects is going to cost somewhere between like $2 or maybe $3 billion, or maybe a little bit more. And they know if that's to be a case, Congo will have the capacity to actually provide energy to Europe, right? Or Nigeria, it's already one of the biggest producer of oil in Africa. And Europe is starting conversation with Nigeria. If Nigeria can supply gas and oil, right, to Europe, you know what that means? It actually keeps Europe running. If they do not receive those energy from Russia, they will have to turn around and go get that from Nigeria. This is exactly why Russia's, the European Union sanctions against Russia is not working, because Russia provides 40% of Europe energy, right? That's from the Nord Stream 1. The Nord Stream 2 was completed. They was just about to inaugurate it before the war started. But now you guys know why this is, where they're going with this. They want to boycott Russia. They want to put a ban on Russia's oil, but they do not have alternative. This is the type of arrogance, like how arrogant these people are. They will have the world believe that they have the infrastructure to actually supply themselves with oil by banning Russian oil, but they do not have those infrastructures. But they're the number one that talk about how Africa lack infrastructures. Yes, we acknowledge that. We need to work a lot on our infrastructures too, whether it's roads or hospitals, schools, in education sector, in many other sectors. But Europe isn't that different. Number one, Europe is Europe in the first place because of the looting of African natural resources. Not only African, like most oil, that's why they go to war on like the Middle East and or destabilizing all these countries around the world so that they have the resources that they need to keep their country running. And without all these other countries around the world, like the entire continent of Europe will be a third world continent. Like, to be realistic, there will be, you have countries like Austria um, that depend on Russian energy by 90%. So tell me today, if Russia, turns off the valve to Austria, the country is screwed. They will probably not have electricity anymore. They won't have. Oh, they will have to go back to ancient time where you have to chop up woods to cook your food, or chop up woods to warm your homes, right? Especially during wintertime. We're getting close to summer. They can still get away with it, but how long is summer compared to winter, fall? Excuse me, fall, and all this other climate? We only have probably 2.5 or the most 3 months of summer. The rest is like cold weather in the West. But these are the things that we do not pay close attention to when it comes down to Africa. So they will threaten us with sanctions if we do not do what benefits their ideas, or what benefit their empire or their interests per se, right? But we are here in the continent on Africa, and you have a lot of young Africans who are doing whatever it takes. They're even ready to risk their lives to just go to Europe. But you're going to Europe to probably nothing more than what you already have. Europe, like, literally, it's a fairy tale. A lot of people that live in the West, they will tell you one thing. If you talk to them, you ask them, like, between here and Africa, where would you like to live your life? A lot, like, I'll guarantee you 95 to even 98% will tell you they want to go back to Africa. And one of the reasons they do not want to return to Africa as soon as possible is because, either one, they do not want to go back to like a small salary. And this is a topic for, like, it's a topic for another day. As, like, I will break it down and explain that the salary in different countries, you have to understand it all depends on the power of your currency. 3 or 4,000 US dollar salary in Europe or America may seem a lot for a regular worker, right? But you have to look into the living standards as well, the living costs, how much renting or buying a home costs here in America or in Europe. And you also look at, like, how much money you need to buy or rent a house in, for instance, in Kinshasa. So if you put all of that into perspective, for instance, if somebody making $500 a month in a Congo, depending on what type of lifestyle you want to live, if you do not want to live a lavish life and try to, like, rent in all this prominent neighborhoods, you will be just fine. It is the same thing here. If somebody tells you they make $6,000 or $4,000 a month working as a regular, like a laborer, right? You will think, oh man, what if they go to school to graduate and they have all this degree? No, it's just not that. It's the choice of the neighborhood in which you choose to live. You may go to places where rent already starts at $1,400 a month, and you have a car insurance, right? You have car payment. If you put all of these bills into the picture, the $4,000 were probably not worth anything. You know what I mean? But that is a subject for another time. So I'm more focusing on Europe dependence on Russian oil. But here's the thing. So check this out. I'm just, this is a food for thought. Russia, because it's so ganged upon by Europeans and Americans because of his intervention, which is justified, by the way. If they asking Europeans to pay for their energy in rubles, right, which means that their dollar, their currency, is now gaining a lot more value. It's one of the most powerful currency in the world as we speak. But the mainstream media, or like the West mainstream media, will have you believe otherwise. No, Russians aren't fleeing Russia to go to other countries because of the sanctions. Their life is just fine. Is there some consequences of the sanctions? Absolutely. The sanctions are more designed to hurt the civilians the most, and later on, eventually, uh, sending them through the streets to protest against the government. And when that happens, United States is justified to go and save the country, right? We have to liberate the people from their dictator and intervene, remove people in power so they can install the puppets that would privatize their energy. When those energies are privatized, guess who come in with the money and to start exploiting the natural resources are American business people, right? The big oil companies. They think we're stupid, but we understand exactly what they do. Look, I really try to stay away from politics all the time, but sometimes with whatever is going on around the world, we kind of have to talk about politics a lot more. So now let's jump into the Congo's role to supply energy to Europe, because this was a conversation that was open. It is up to the Congolese government to really consider this and take this seriously, and probably in the future consider supplying their energy to Europe. Before I get back to the Congo, it's something that I wanted to focus on that kind of slipped through my mind, but now it came back to me. Okay, the entire continent of Africa has the amount of natural resources that you will find in the continent of Africa is one of the most strategic when we talk about the world evolution. We're talking about the 21st century technology, the iPhones that we use, electric cars that we drive. We have the luxury to drive today, Elon Musk with Tesla and all that other stuff. If you do not have cobalt, that's where the 60% of the world reserve is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So you have the answer. Now think about this. What if Congo or in the entire continent of Africa is to ask for their natural resources paid in African currency? Do you know what that will mean? It will only means that the power of the dollar or the power of European currency would not matter anymore. That's kind of the same thing that Russia is doing right now to Europeans, right? You want to pay, you want to continue to receive gas and oil from us, you have to open a ruble account. Ruble is the Russian currency. Once the account is open, right? A lot of these European countries, they did not want to open accounts in ruble, but guess what they do? Prom is like a central bank where the trade of oil is done in Russia. So you open an account there, you can deposit money into whatever currency you would like, right? But that bank will convert your currency into the rubles and send the money for you to receive your gas or oil from Russia, right? Very smart, because if Russia continue receiving payments in euro or American dollars, it's literally giving gas away for free, because they cannot use the currency outside of Russia because of the sanctions. So you want them to continue giving gas away for free? A lot of people are talking about breach of contract. Okay, it's like in the Bible, right? You think this is the ancient time where Jesus gave, they slapped him on one cheek and he gave the other chick to slap them? No, we live in a different world now, right? Russia is just not going to sit there and take it. They have to come up with a retaliatory measure to counterattack the imperialist agenda towards Russia, which probably not gonna work. Hey, what's going on, my brother? I'm glad you're here on the chat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit the like button and also share the live for those of us that's not informed that we're going live, to all have this important conversation. So back to the topic, right? So if Africa does the exact same thing, do you know the significance of this matter? But because we're so keen, and I don't know if the colonial pact is even a thing, but these people think that in order for them to ascend to power, they have to depend on Europeans. But that's why a lot of times our African leaders, those elites that try to oppose the West imperialism, they either end up getting assassinated or worse. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is not a topic for today. That's why you have people like Muammar Gaddafi that was brutally assassinated by the NATO because of his ambition to the continent of Africa. That's what we talk about. Africa needs one army. Africa needs one currency where the trades are made within African. So when you have like imperialists like Europeans coming to Africa even after colonialism, and they're still trying to impose their will upon a lot of African countries, you have your answers there. But one thing that we do not realize, we have so much natural resources that we can use against these imperialists and they won't have anything to do with it. In today's world, you need cooperations. But one thing though that I noticed about Africans, we are so divided. If most Africans come in black and make a decision and be like, listen, from now on, we all have to speak one language. If one African country says no, we all have to back him up. But you have a lot of corrupt officials within the African continent that are, I mean, all that matters to them in living in big homes and owning these mansions, as long as there's imperialists put money into their pockets. It's kind of the same thing as like a lot of these politicians in the West, right? Like they work for the banks, they work for like the military industrial complex, all this big pharma, weapon, manufacturer and stuff like that. I mean, one example is the best example will be like the $40 billion that America has passed in as a representative that was blacked by Senator Rand Paul to send weapons to Ukraine. I mean, these people, they will receive commission from the arm manufacturer, right? Why? Because if they pass these laws through and it ends up into the hands of Ukrainians, it's not because they want the Ukraine to defend themselves, that they want the Ukraine to have a fair fight. They don't care. These people, they want the war to continue in order for them to make a buck. And when you have like politicians that supports, right, these type of ideas, it gives you the exact answer that you are looking for. That's why we need to be more vigilant. And this is why I do not understand. Like, countries only have interest. When they needed Libya, they did not intervene to topple Gaddafi. They will tell you, oh, Gaddafi is a dictator. Oh, this country is suffering because, people there is no freedom of speech, blah, 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 blah. But look at Libya under the so-called dictator, Muammar Gaddafi, right? Compare to Libya, what Libya is today. Under Gaddafi, the quote-unquote dictator, Libya has like it was one of the most developed country in Africa or even in the world. Their healthcare was put together, a lot of things was put together, but because his ambitions outgrew the European interests, and they see the danger of having one African currency, the gold that he had accumulated to back the African currency. So where Africans wants to borrow money to develop their infrastructures, they do not have to make a phone call to the IMF to do that because of the high interest rates. It was a danger for them. That was going to undermine their currency. Guess what they did? They slaughtered him. They destabilized the country. Now Libya, they have slave markets today, for God's sake. You know why? It's the NATO and the Americans that did that. You know what I'm saying? So one thing we need to understand, like these people, they are not okay to see African thrive. They're not okay to see African go forward. When they see you making evolution, they will do whatever it takes to make sure you are not developed, that people are desperate. So when they bring the weapons to start insurgencies to facilitate looting of our natural resources, people will not have a choice but taking it. Because if you live in a country where the government is not providing enough job for the youth, people are more likely to do whatever it takes when it comes down to feeding their family. And they know and understand how this is work. Like they literally use people that are already desperate, like people that are vulnerable. And these strategies have been used for so many decades. It really takes somebody with like a strong mindset to kind of resist this type of offers. And this really happens a lot. Even when we talk about human trafficking, sex trafficking, they're not going after people that have a really good social status. They always go after people that either grew, they either lived in the shelter, they didn't really have or no family member providing for them. People are desperate. They do not have a place to sleep. They do not have anywhere to go. They always go against those people. Guess why? Because they're vulnerable. They are there ready to take whatever comes their way, if it means to keep themselves fed, to make sure that they have food on the table and things like that. You know what I'm saying? But if somebody who actually is aware of what's going on, somebody who who are capable to provide themselves without needing somebody else to give them a speech as to what their life's worth, they will not fall for this kind of thing. And these are the strategies that have been used for so many decades, and they're continuing to use it because, number one, they only agree with politicians that align with their imperialist agenda. And if you have politicians that oppose that, that's why you will have a country under sanctions. You have countries like Iran, you have countries like Cuba, you have countries like Venezuela. This what tells you everything you need to know about countries only have interest over other countries. So one country will throw you like as quickly under the bus as possible if your governance is not benefiting their imperialist agenda. One good example of that is when America banned the imports of Russian oil into the United States. Even if America only gets, I think, maybe 3 or 5% of their oil from Russia, guess who they turn to? Venezuela. But not too long ago, the United States government were trying to topple the Venezuelan government. They wanted to install a puppet that was going to privatize the oil sector, for the big oil company in America. Because that was a failure, it didn't work. And even in a United Nations, under Donald Trump's presidency, the Vice President I think it's Mike Pence, literally was talking to Venezuelans officials like inside the room, telling them that you guys are not supposed to be here because we do not acknowledge your government. So America gets to make decisions of what government is legitimate, what it is not. So if my country holds a fair and democratic election, and somebody gets elected that America do not like because they know they're not going to give them everything that they want, they would start a propaganda to have the world believe that this guy is a dictator, is this and that. So that's why Venezuela's under sanctions, right? The sanctions that Venezuela is under is because, number one, Guaido, the current president, he nationalized their gas, he nationalized their oil to actually give back to the population. Things that American governments do not do to their population. When other countries do it, it becomes a problem. You know what I'm saying? That's why they sanction them so much and they put a ban on the oil. You cannot trade with Venezuela and all of that. The people that suffer the most are the regular, like the ordinary people like me and you. A lot of these people in the position of power, they have so much money that even today the gas price is like $10 a gallon. These billionaires will still be fine. They will still be able to fill up their tank and drive to work. But somebody like me and you would not be able to afford it. The gas price now, a gallon of gas here in the United States in certain places, like where I live in Pennsylvania, Quakertown, like it's almost close. It's close to $5 a gallon, right? A lot of people are already complaining about it. But for them, it doesn't matter because they can afford it. But all the actions that these people take We are always the victim. Even when we talk about terrorist attack, when the terrorists attack people, they attack cities, civilians become the casualty. They never attack these people because they live in this neighborhood way too far away from ordinary people that vote for them. That's what makes them so immune to a lot of these things. But they're the ones who make decisions that jeopardize our livelihood, that jeopardize our safety, that jeopardize everything that we ever work for. They have, a nuclear bunker that they build, so when it comes down to a nuclear war, them and their family will be just fine because they will be hiding underneath the ground. But someone like me and you that cannot afford such a thing will be so exposed to the confrontation. And when that happens, the apocalypse, the nuclear apocalypse becomes imminent, we're the ones who will be directly endangered, not them. So now you understand, where I'm going with this. And to get back to the topic, and America literally goes back to Venezuela to talk about removing ban on Venezuelan oil if it means to import into the country. You see what I'm saying? But they're the ones who say that Venezuela government is illegitimate. So now you acknowledge their legitimacy, right? Because you want to negotiate the oil to come back to America, because you want to ban Russian oil. God, these people are so hypocrites. The level of hypocrisy that the West exhibit, it's staggering. Sometimes it makes my stomach twinge. And guys, of course, we do not have anything to do about it. But we have YouTube, for God's sake, right? We have all this other platform. Maybe this video will get demonetized, who knows? Because I'm talking about this thing. I try not to talk about this type of thing so much, but hey, here I am, I'm talking about it, so be it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what happens to my YouTube channel if it means to tell the truth. But here's the thing though. We have to know how the power that Africa has. We have to know that the damage we can do if we are to do exactly what Russia is doing without firing a gunshot to anybody. Asking for our African natural resources to be paid for African currency. Let's just say that Muammar Gaddafi's ambitions to have one African currency, became realistic, and today we actually have that, and we demand payments of African natural resources and African currency. You know what it will mean for the African continent? The economy will boom so rapidly, and these people will not have nothing to do about it because they barely have the infrastructure to import oil outside of what Russia provides to them. If today Russia turns off the valve, a lot of these countries will look like what they look like back in ancient time. They won't have gas to cook with. They will have to go back to the old-fashioned way. But then they're the number ones to talk about Africans and look down on African people and telling people don't go to Africa. They got big ass mosquitoes like this that will bite you. They have starvation over there. They have this and that. But themselves, they do not even have the kind of infrastructure to import energy to keep the country running. But they want to have you believe that Africa doesn't worth anything, right? So that is it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really, really, really do appreciate you all. Please, if you're watching this video on a replay, make sure you let me know in the comment section where you're watching from, and I will really, really appreciate it. It's always my pleasure to speak with you guys about this important issues, and we all should be aware of, right? And yes, please guys, stay tuned. Make sure you keep those alerts turned on. I got a video coming on your way really, really soon, but I'm still working on video, so make sure you stay tuned for that, and it's going to be released very soon. I still got to do a couple of touches here and there to keep you guys updated on what's going on my farm. And yes, thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video. I'm almost at work. Peace.